Hello tankers and tankettes, welcome to a bit of live gameplay, and today I'm going to look at a brand new tank, the 1357GF. This is the very recently introduced tier 7 French premium light tank, and I've played a couple of battles in it so far. This was gifted to me yesterday by Manti111, who also gifted me City Skylines, so a big shout out to Manti for doing that. As you can see, it's got a special even camo on it that says wgleague.net, and there's also a special garage at the moment, so they're trying to tell us about some kind of event, I think, maybe? I don't know. One thing I will note that's interesting, that might be quite telling, is the fact that in the data files, looking with Tank Inspector, you can see there are actually two 1357s. One with the camo and one without. So my speculation is that this is a special edition, basically, that they're selling this now as a kind of a promotional thing for the WGL finals, and once that's all over, at some point a regular 1357 will come along and it won't have this camo. But the thing is, this special paint job effectively acts as regular camouflage. Now I can't actually put camo on it or an emblem. So what they've done is they've made this special paint job count as camo that you've bought. And there's a couple of different packages available that include this. So if you really want to get it, you can, but I suspect if you wait long enough, you will be able to get it just as a regular premium vehicle without the big white stripe on it. Anyway, what's it actually like? Well, I've played a couple of battles yesterday. I haven't played it all today, but we're going to in just a moment. But I thought I'd give you a quick rundown first. The obvious comparison, of course, is the 1375, which is the other tier French. I'm doing so well this morning. The other tier 7 French light tank, and it shares a lot of similarities. There's actually a lot of the stats are very, very similar. Things like the clip reload time is the same, the view range, the signal range are the same, the aim time is the same, the speed limit is the same. There are some ways in which this is better, some ways in which it's worse, but they're not massive differences. The biggest difference is this gun, the 57mm L100, and I don't think there are any other French tanks that get a 57mm gun, which that's unique in its own right, right away. But if you notice the average AP pen, 143 versus 144 for the 1375, although the APCR pen is slightly less, so there's that. It is a slightly inferior gun in terms of penetration. It also doesn't get HE, but that's not going to matter too much, I don't think. So the gun is not too dissimilar. Like I said, the clip reload time is exactly the same. It has a very slightly higher DPM. It's about 60 higher, just looking at the base stats. The rate of fire is counted as being higher, but that's because you can get your shells off twice as fast. Now, it's a bigger clip. It has 8 shells in the magazine, and you can fire those off with a 1 second gap in between. That's obviously way faster than you can actually aim the gun, but if you're really close range behind somebody, you can just hold down your left mouse button and unload an entire clip into them, and it's quite fun. So the gun is alright. It's not especially better or worse than the 1375, although of course the fact that it's a 57mm gun means the shells don't especially do a lot of damage each. There are going to be some times when you're up against a low health target, and whereas 1375 would be able to finish them off with 1 shot, you're going to need 2. So that is going to have an impact on the gameplay. But in terms of its gun, it's not massively different. In terms of the mobility, again, it's not that different. Probably the biggest change is the fact that it has a weaker horsepower per ton ratio by about 2 horsepower per ton. It's got a weaker engine, but the weight is about the same as the 1375. So a lot of the time you're not going to feel that, but if you're ever trying to climb a slope, it is going to be a bit more noticeable. Like it's about 17 horsepower per ton, just over. So it's still pretty good, but compared to the other tier 7 light tanks, it's I think it's the worst of the crop. And there are times, like there were a couple of times in battles yesterday when I was having to climb up slopes, and I really did feel it. Like Circon was zooming up in his Walker Bulldog or T71 or whatever it was, and I was struggling up the slope afterwards in this thing. Some of the soft terrain stats are slightly better than the 1375. I think the chassis traverse is better. Probably the best thing that it has over the 1375 is the fact that you get an extra 3 degrees of gun elevation. And that's actually quite significant for a French autoloader tank, because most of them struggle to get their gun up very high. So it's 12 degrees versus 9, if I'm looking at the stats correctly. Yes, 12 degrees versus 9. Gun depression is exactly the same, -6. But sometimes that extra gun elevation is actually really going to help you out. It's also got exactly the number of slots you need for training up your French tier 7 and, well, tier 6, 7 and 8 light crews. So if you've got a 12T, 1375 or a 1390, you can just drop the crew straight in there, which is quite useful. Or if you're like me, you can drop your AMX 40 crew in there, because it's exactly that same number of crew slots. So that's what I'm going to do. The sensible thing would be to put in the 1390 crew, because the 1390 crew commander has got 6th sense. But you know what? I'm going to train up my AMX 40 crew, because I need my AMX 40 crew to be OP, damn it. Now, because it's 390 view range, I'm actually going to use binocular telescope and use it that way, because the lackluster horsepower per ton ratio in comparison to the other tier 7 scouts means it's not a particularly great active scout. It's a bit more like, I mean, the 1375 is not a great active scout anyway. It's better as a passive scout, and it's better as a surprise damage dealer, like ambushing a low health enemy, emptying a clip into them, and then hopefully running away. Or even going in with friendly tanks and acting as support fire. So they're better as support damage dealers in a lot of scenarios than they are as scouts. And I think that's equally true for the 1357 as well. So, new plan. You might notice that this is not Sacred Valley, because my internet decided to crash during the course of the battle. And in fact, it's been down for the whole rest of the day, so that's fun. I might not even get to upload this tonight. I'm recording this all on Sunday. It might end up not appearing till Tuesday at this rate, but we'll see. Fingers crossed. So this is Hidden Thingy? Hidden Village? I want to say Hidden Village. I think it's Hidden Village. It's the Japanese map anyway. I'm platooned up with Billy and Sircon, and these are actually all from yesterday, where we were helping Sircon get... he's down to his last couple of light missions for the T55A reward tank. And we tried some tier 8 battles and ended up playing a lot more tier 7 scout battles. And he's down to the mission where he needs a bunch of spotting, the mission where he needs to tune up with arty, and of course the final mission. So I'm just sitting here unloading this T37, and unfortunately some of them bounce. And you can see there that if you wait for the actual the aim time versus because the aim time's about double the actual shot-to-shot reload time. If you want to get the full benefit of unloading that clip, it does involve firing before you're fully aimed, and that I should have in theory been able to clip that T37. But anyway, you might also be wondering, and prepare for some serious facepalm right now, you might also be wondering why I sat there and took that extra shot from the T37 that I didn't need to. I was furiously mashing the keyboard. But as it turned out, I was furiously mashing the E key rather than the W key, and then wondering stupidly for just that fraction too long why my tank wasn't moving. Yes, that actually happened. I am a professional. Do not try this at home. So, Sircon and Billy decided they were going to take out this lone T29, which when you've got a pair of light tanks against same tier heavy, you know, any tier heavy tank, unless it's particularly well armoured, which the T29 isn't from the sides and rear, well, that was an easy target for them, and I was able to get in some assistance damage there as well. Tried a little sneaky shot at the front of that IS-3, but with this gun, that is unlikely to happen. And as I've said, like the other French lights, this gun is not particularly great at snapshots, and it's not particularly great at firing on the move, and it's maybe better at it than the 1390, but the fact that it actually has less accuracy than the 1375 means, in theory, it's actually marginally worse than the 1375 is at it, and the 1375 is not known for being particularly great at firing on the move. So for best results, you want to sit, you want to let your reticle fully aim between shots. So my plan here was let the T150, well, let the IS-3 fire, and then I would pop out, and with glorious mistiming, I then decided to reload a clip of APCR and just throw away my opportunity in between the IS-3 loading. So, yeah, so much for that plan. I was not firing on all cylinders for this battle, clearly. But the IS-3 is about to die anyway without my intervention, and I'm wary of taking a hit from him because he could potentially one-shot me. He could definitely one-shot the T-150 as well, but the IS-3 was taking so much fire, including from Circon and that CDC, that it really didn't matter. So that's the main threat down, but there's still a T-69, and Circon had actually come over to this flank because there's more opportunity for getting around enemy tanks. But unfortunately, he ran into a T-69, and that's a bit of a problem because that thing, it can get its shots off fairly quick. And Circon didn't really have enough health to even make a getaway. In fact, I think his engine got taken out. So again, I'm not letting the reticle fully aim. I'm trying to get the best out of this rate of fire, but unfortunately, the one shot that bounced that could have killed the T-34 cost me another bit of damage, another bit of health rather. It also cost me my repair kit. And I was able to use that final shot to kill the to hit the LTTB, but I wasn't going to get a kill on him just because with one shell you're struggling a bit to, like, the targets have to be really low health. Super low health. But I'm not too worried because the full health KV-85, you know, the LTTB is not going to rush around in the face of that. And as it turns out, he gets sniped by the 122-44, so that's fine. We're winning this battle fairly comfortably. We have lost a couple of tanks. But it's come down to a T-34 who's just died and this T-69. And again, I've gone with my APCR clip because I don't trust the regular pen to be enough on a T-69, especially not if I'm ending up facing him frontally. Billy's around the other side, but he's very low health. We've also got a KV-85, and of course our artillery is still in play, and that's going to be important because, well, you'll see why in a second. So when you're really close range though, that's when you most get to make use of this full rate of fire. And oh, hello! I came very close to clipping that T-69, but not quite close enough. Billy picking up the kill there. And the RT at least had the grace to apologise. And the thing is, once I'd failed to kill the T-69, like, I was a little bit mad, and then Foch pointed out, well, I was going to die anyway, because I'd failed to clip the T-69. The T-69 was going to kill me either way. So at that point, it's more understandable if an artillery player takes a shot. Like, it's still a little bit annoying, but if you were going to die anyway, then it doesn't really matter. And as it happened, we had conclusively won. It wasn't like that was game-changing. So, yeah, okay, it was a bit irritating. But that's one of those times when you can forgive an artillery player for taking a shot like that. It's not like I was in a comfortable situation and then I was definitely going to kill that T-69. Quite the opposite. I was definitely going to die either way. So, I'm not mad in that instance. In retrospect, you know, having thought about it for more than 5 minutes, I'm not mad at all. So we have a brief interlude and intermission where I show you a flip side of the coin. The last battle I had an okay amount of damage. I don't think you're ever going to walk away with massive amounts of damage with a 1357 just because of the limited damage per shell and the fact that opportunities where you can stand and unload your clip at somebody to get the maximum damage out of a clip, it's comparatively rare. You basically need your team to be good enough to give you space in which to work, and you can help your team along the way, but equally you can end up with teams like this where we got to the 4-minute mark and there were 2 tanks left alive from our team, one of them being me. So yeah, it has all the frustrations of just playing a light tank generally. And even though the enemy team was down a scout, it didn't matter a single jot because our top tiers were clearly not up to snuff in this one. You don't manage to all die within 4 minutes without being not very good en masse. Either you're not having a very good day in tanks or you're just not very good at tanks generally. But at least I got to have the satisfaction of zooming in and basically farming some damage, but I did get to kill the enemy artillery. And these last couple of shots, I don't know why that Hellcat's firing HE, I really don't. But it shows you, again, it's not particularly great on the move, firing on the move with this gun. Now, my crew isn't especially great, but they are at least 100% on their primary crew skill. And even with ventilation, it's not a reliable way to do damage at all. Also, I will say, because I'm having to do these purely offline, I'm hoping that I'll be able to have score screens up, that my internet will come back up at some point and I'll be able to go to Wotreplays, upload the replays and actually put the scores up, but I can't actually talk about the scores because I don't have internet right now. So yeah, the first game, I mean, that was the best damage of the three we're going to see. Although in that middle game I seem to remember I was easily top half of the team damage wise with only 900, even though a bunch of it was farmed at the end. That was still more than enough to put me at the top of towards the top of the team. So we come on to replay number 3. Again, good matchmaking. We actually had, for the entire evening, at least for the tier 7 scouts, pretty good matchmaking. We had very few battles where we saw tier 9s and 10s. It was mostly tier 8s, so that was quite nice. But bear in mind, this can get tier 10 matchmaking. You know, it does get regular scout matchmaking. Now, Billy, unfortunately, managed to go down there and then land in such a way that he not only took his tracks off, but ruined his engine as well. So RIP Billy, he really didn't last very long in this battle at all. You'll also notice, perhaps, what the rest of our team is doing. If you take a quick glance at the minimap, you will see that there's only really a Super Pershing that's coming up here. There's me and Circon, there's a KV3 that's going towards the cap, there's a Tiger P on the A line, and everyone else is clustered in D7 and D8, apart from a Rhymatool who's as yet AFK, and a Panther M10 who's gone south. So this didn't look promising. It's one of those times when you look at what your team's doing on the minimap and you think, okay, this is going to be a disaster. And we were fully expecting it to be as bad as that previous Muravanka match. But sometimes, you know, you'll be surprised. Now, I took a hit from that IS-6 there, which was quite unfortunate because he was firing purely on the move, and the IS-6 gun is not known for its accuracy. It really isn't, so maybe 7 times out of 10 that shot would have missed, but unfortunately it wasn't one of those 7 times out of 10. So myself and Circon, we're just making a getaway now. There's no point hanging around to face off against top tier enemy heavy tanks. That's our top tier heavy tanks job, and they are all hanging around back here. Although the Tiger 2 and the T-34 have moved a little bit, you know, they've positioned themselves slightly better, but that's still a big cluster of heavy tanks of our side that are just sitting in D7, just chilling, just not doing anything at all. So the Panther M10, meanwhile, in the south, has been able to successfully... he's crossed without taking any damage, without dying, so if there are defending tank destroyers, defending tanks, there are maybe not that many of them, so we're going to try our luck in the south instead. And actually, El Haluf, it's not a great map for light tanks, but especially in the encounter mode, because the focus in theory is in the north of the map, although at least a couple of our team members have not realised that, despite having managed to get to tier 8 and played countless battles on this map. They still don't quite get it apparently, but that gives you opportunities to go round from the south potentially, and we've already, there we go, taken out that SU-152, so that's quite nice. Between the two of us, we very easily took care of him. I can't remember if Circon was using the auto-loading gun on the Walker Bulldog or if he was just using the single-shot gun, but either way, the Walker Bulldog's got a very good rate of fire also. So between the two of us, we just demolished that guy. Now Circon, I will say, the best damage game was that one on Hidden Village. Like, this is a very different sort of a game, and Circon actually does do a lot of damage in his Walker Bulldog, and if you want to do a lot of damage in a tier 7 scout, the Walker Bulldog is probably the best bet for it. I don't do nearly so much damage in this one, but I think our contribution was still... we still did something, but it was kind of a weird one. We're going to get to see more kind of classic light tank flanking action, like some of the stuff that you can do in light tanks, but I suspect this game, it was more, slightly spoiler alert I suppose, that we end up winning this, but it was more that the enemy team managed somehow to give it away despite our team not being particularly great. Now you can see the T-34 and the Tiger 2 are already dead, and Circon was just, he's poking and spotting and making sure that Rhymatool's not peeking out, and we take that as an opportunity to actually push up this slope. And the Panther M10, as you can see, is to our left as well. He's still alive. He's low health, but he is still alive, so his gun is available to us to help do damage, hopefully, if he's paying attention. Also, that cluster of heavy tanks that is still in D7, well, they are within render range. We can at least spot for them. We can make use of them being there. And the Rheinmetall might be slightly too far back, but this G25-2 is definitely within range of them. So if they are at least having the sense to shoot at what we're spotting, then our being here, you know, it serves that purpose at least as well. Now, I had a quick peek, and I tarried slightly too long in front of that Rheinmetall. I was trying to see if I could get a shot, but 6 degrees gun depression. No, it wasn't going to happen at all. But fortunately, the Rheinmetall was not very quick on the trigger, and I got away with it. I was also being a bit slow in that I realised way too late that that IS-3 was within render range for me, and I might have been able to get off a shot or two, but at most it would have been a shot or two, and they probably would have bounced because that was extreme range. And of course, bear in mind, your penetration falls off with range. So Zircon and I don't know if the Panther M10 actually got any shots on that Rheinmetall, not Rheinmetall, the G25-2, but the G25-2's dead. I'm thinking I'll pop out, shoot the Rheinmetall, and I do get to shoot once, but yeah, no, that 1375 has come back. He was last spotted up north, but clearly he's, yeah, I mean, he must be in F1, which is well within my spotting range. So he's got a very, very good camo crew because, okay, I don't have optics, but I've got 100% crew and I've got 390 view range. So in theory, I should have seen him when he was as close as, well, F1 G1 really, just the edge of that rock. But I didn't, so yeah, he's obviously got like a camo net, 100% camo crew. Anyway, the artillery fire just took out the M10, and that allowed Zircon to move up and take out the arty, and I've moved up, but unfortunately, guess who I just ran into? Yes, and he's still full health as well, which is very bad news for me. So I've taken another hit. I am now a one-shot kill, potentially. Zircon's got slightly more hit points, and at this point, I mean, if I reload my clip, which I'm gonna, and that's a nice thing about the fact that it's only a 15-second reload for those 8 shots, so there are a lot of situations where, say, a 1390 or whatever, or even the Walker Bulldog with its like 30-second reload for the clip, you can afford to switch ammo types a lot more readily. But anyway, Zircon knows he can take the hit, so he's going to go in first. He's going to take those 2 hits, and he's probably going to die. But the fact is, while that 1375 is shooting at him, I can shoot at the 1375. So that was a nice bit of teamwork there. And I got a little bit more damage out of it as well. If I'd gone in first, I would have been potentially, like I said, a one-shot kill for the 1375. Then the 1375 could have turned his attention onto Zircon, and we could have both died, and he might still have been alive, and that would have been not optimal. So even though Zircon sacrificed himself there, basically, it was worthwhile because it was the last tank. We got to do more damage, and maybe being on that flank, pushing round, you know, it didn't really win the match. It turned out in the end that our camping, like the heavies, that cluster of heavies, for some reason the enemy team couldn't overcome that. But also the Super Pershing and also the KV-3, well, the KV-3 didn't do so much damage. In fact, the KV-3 didn't do any damage, but he was still there being shot at. Like, he was at least providing something for the enemy team to fire at, and they weren't all firing at the Super Pershing. So the Super Pershing actually did quite well for himself. Only 1800 damage, but I suspect he got a bunch of spotting and also probably bounced a bunch of damage as well. But that cluster of heavy tanks that was there, you know, they didn't do that much damage, but the fact that they were there and the fact that they were doing some damage, well, as it turned out, the enemy team either through overconfidence, or maybe they were just worse. Maybe they just were so thrown by the fact that we had that cluster of tanks, they weren't expecting a bunch of tanks to be there, that somehow we pulled that into a win. And Zircon, well, the flank that we were on was maybe not so important, but Zircon still did by far the most damage on the team. He had nearly 3000 damage, and the next best was the Borsig with 2500, who was along the 1 line, so he did a lot of damage before he died, and then that softened up those tanks trying to push around into the rest of our team. So that was a bit of a weird match. That was one where we were looking at it thinking, we're going to lose, we're going to lose, we're going to lose, and then somehow we didn't. Occasionally that happens in World of Tanks, it's always unpredictable. So I think my main conclusion, just after playing it for a couple of days, would be it's probably not worth it unless you're actually already playing the French light tank line, because you need to have some idea of that playstyle. If you do have them, and you do know how to play these tanks, then you're going to get on fine with the 1357, because it fits right on in there. It is, I mean, the gun's a little bit different, but it is basically that same playstyle. And it's knowing when to pop up behind somebody and be able to unload that clip into their, you know, side and rear armor. And the fact that you can get the clip off so quickly when you're at that close range, you know, that's really nice. That's going to be an advantage for French light players. Otherwise, just as a tank in its own right, as a premium tank, as a moneymaker, you're definitely better off looking elsewhere. If you're not on that French light line already, if you're not particularly in need of a crew trainer, because I think that's what it's most useful for as a crew trainer, I would give this one a miss for now. It's got a particular play style that you need to come to grips with. Although, having said that, you know, you might buy this thing, train up a crew for it, and then go down the French light tank line, because you're going to have some idea from playing this what to do. So you could do it that way, but honestly I would go the route that doesn't involve spending actual money before spending actual money, if that makes any sense. So hopefully this kind of, I don't know what to call it, preview really, this preliminary thoughts video, hopefully this has been useful to you. And if you think so, you can leave any comments below, you can hit the like button, you can subscribe to my channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.